Grace and peace be unto you from Yahuwah the Father and Yahusha the Messiah, his Son. This is Brother David, the servant of the Most High. I want to speak to you today about Jerusalem. 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 Choose whichever one you want to call it. But the Bible tells us that the children of Israel, that righteous race, shall rebuild the waste cities. Now, this is Jerusalem that we know of today. Please examine this picture. Does it look like a waste city today? Does it look desolate? It looks pretty much inhabited to me. Now, I've meant to do this video a long time ago, but we're so busy, especially with the new moon. I have some updates for the new moon observance, but I just took a break from that to do this video. One of the brothers pointed me to this. He wanted me to watch a video that one of the other brothers made that points out all of the places in Africa where the names of the promised land are placed. They're all over. Now, I have no problem with that because I know that our people migrated into Africa and named it after the places in which they came from. We know how that works. Even here in America, we have the New Jerusalem all over the place. So when a person moves into a land, he names it by what he already knows. But the problem that I have with this video that the brother made was that he said that Jerusalem is in South Africa. Now, when someone makes a claim, my assignment from the Father is to cry loud and spare not, show the people their transgressions. This is not just a transgression by saying that Jerusalem is in South Africa, but it is a straight out lie. Here's another lie. The place that you're looking at here is not Jerusalem either. The Bible describes it perfectly. He says it shall be waste. It shall be heaps. The fields shall be plowed. Do you see any fields that are plowed in the background around the city? Look at the structure that you have here. This is a Muslim mosque. Before it was a mosque, it was a Templar church. And they converted the church to a mosque. This is called the Dome of the Rock. This is the place where pilgrims come from all over the world to pray here. The Jews, they state that this is the location of Solomon's temple. The Christians say that this is the place that the Messiah ascended into heaven, and the Muslims say that this is the place that Muhammad ascended into heaven. But this is not the Jerusalem that is in the Bible, at least not the one that the Father has prepared for the children of Israel. Let's check it out. Isaiah chapter 61, verse 4. And they shall build the old waste. They shall raise up the former desolations. Remember, should be waste. Everything should be desolate. And they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. That means it has been lying desolate from generation to generation to generation. I would say that it's been lying desolate for maybe 23 or 400 years. Does this look desolate to you? I'm just saying, desolation, you won't see all of this. This place is very well inhabited, and it is visited by millions of people. They come to pray at the wall. They say that that is the Wailing Wall, the wall of the temple. It's surrounded by houses. Remember the picture that I showed you in the beginning of the Dome of the Rock? You'll see houses surrounding this whole city. So we can't say that this is desolate, right? What about this? Does this look desolate to you? Does it look like a waste city? Remember, we shall return and build the waste cities, which means the city must be lying dormant, waiting for our return. Look what's on the mountain here. It is a temple. This is the only temple in existence in Israel today. There is no other. Here's something else. This is the only place where they have found the name of Yahuwah. They have not found the name of Yahuwah in the Jerusalem that you know of today, the one that is advertised. But in this place, they found our Father's name. I just want this to sink in a little bit. Remember, we're searching for the Father in the daytime with a flashlight. We cannot allow people to lead us astray. We must study and check all evidence. Now, I'm going to show you evidence about this. It's going to prove to you that this is the site. This is Mount Zion. This is the place that we shall return shortly and rebuild this. And we shall have assigned to us men and beasts, and they shall rebuild our waste cities. They shall plant our vineyards. They shall till our fields, brothers and sisters. So it can't be over any other place. This is one point that I want you to understand. The Jerusalem that we know of today is totally inhabited. It is surrounded by houses. They're not doing any real agriculture around the city that we know of today. We're going to get to all of those points later. Ancient inscriptions testify to widespread literacy in Judah by 600 BCE. A team of scholars and scientists have analyzed Hebrew inscriptions dated to about 600 BCE. Remember these numbers. And suggests results that indicate a high degree of literacy in ancient Hebrew writing among officials of the military and administrative apparatus of the kingdom of Judah before the fall of Jerusalem at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BCE. These dates are very important, brothers and sisters. Keep them in mind. Jeremiah chapter 52, verse 4 to 6. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his army, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and built forts against it round about. So the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And in the 4th month, in the 9th day of the month, the famine was sore in the city, so that there was no bread for the people of the land. 10 years they besieged this city, until the 11th year. It was in the 9th year of King Nebuchadnezzar's reign. 10 and 9 equals 19. The people had no bread, no food left in the city. Look at this. Verse 7. Then the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled, and went forth out of the city by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, which was by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were by the city round about, and they went by the way of the plain. Verse 8. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. Verse 9. Then they took the king and carried him up unto the king of Babylon to Riblah in the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment upon him. Verse 10. And the king of Babylon slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. He slew also all the princes of Judah in Riblah. Verse 11. Then he put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and the king of Babylon bound him in chains, and carried him to Babylon, and put him in prison till the day of his death. What a horrible death. First, you have to watch your children being slain right before you. And after you saw this, that was going to be the last thing that you saw before he put your eyes out. So in your memory, the only thing that you will recount over and over again until you die in that prison is watching your children being slain before your eyes. Verse 12. Now in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem. Verse 13. And burned the house of Yahuwah, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men burned he with fire. So in the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar's reign was when the house of Yahuwah was burned with fire. Look at this. Nebuchadnezzar reigned 605 to 562 BC. Was a king of Babylon, during whose long and eventful reign the Neo-Babylonian Empire attained its peak, and the city of Babylon its greatest glory. Now listen to this, brothers and sisters. Remember the ostraca, or the shards, the pottery, or whatever they found that had the Hebrew inscriptions. They dated it back to 600 BC. King Nebuchadnezzar was in the 19th year of his reign when he destroyed the temple. If you subtract 19 from 605, it comes to 586 BC. History tells you that the temple was destroyed in 586 BC. Where did they get it from? The Bible. Because the Bible tells you in the 19th year of his reign, and it goes to 586 BC. That matches what the scholars dug up in Arad. Perfectly, brothers and sisters. Let's see who else was there. Psalms 137, verse 7 to 9. Let me show you who was also there with the children of Babylon. Remember Yahuwah, the children of Edom, in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. This is why the Edomites are going to be destroyed, because of what they did to the house of Yahuwah. These are Yahuwah's enemies. They're also our enemies. They're definitely the Messiah's enemies. Verse 8. O daughter of Babylon. Who is he talking about? Edom is the daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. What did they do? How did they serve the Israelites? They killed them by the sword. They burnt their city with fire. They burnt down the temple. They said, raise it, even to the foundations thereof. Verse 9. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. That is the outcome of what they've done to the Father's house. Their little ones shall be dashed against the stones. The real Mount Zion and Jerusalem is in Arad. Undeniable proof. Now, this is a YouTube video that was created by one of our brothers. This video is awesome. He matches every description of this site to the account in Nehemiah. You remember when he was rebuilding the walls? It is perfect. It is precise. It will match this location in every single detail. Stop the video now, type this in, watch the video. I think it's about 20 minutes or maybe even less, but just a little bit through the video. It's going to connect with your spirit and you're going to say, my goodness, this is the city of Jerusalem. Ancient inscriptions testify to widespread literacy in Judah by 600 BCE. Let's return to this. Let's look at some of the culprits who are responsible of covering this thing up. Shira Feigenbaum Golovin, Ari Schaus, and the colleagues of Tel Aviv University conducted an analysis of 16 ink inscriptions in Hebrew on ancient ceramic shards. Let's stop for a second. The colleagues of Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv in the scriptures in ancient times was called Ashdod. The Bible says that a bastard will dwell in Ashdod, which is Tel Aviv. These bastards, I'm just following what the scripture is telling us who these people are covering this stuff up. But they can't, because people, the Hebrews, the Israelites, us, the ones who are rising up in these last days, the Father has given us his spirit, and we can decipher their lies. Look in parentheses, otherwise known as ostraca, which were previously excavated from the desert fortress of Arad in southern Judah and dated to around 600 BCE. Okay. Does that line up with history? Does that line up with Nebuchadnezzar coming in to burn the city? Perfectly. Why have they dismissed with this event? They have to know this. They have to know that this lines up with the Bible and with history. That the temple was destroyed 14 years later. They even found the names of the people who were in charge of the temple at that time. Here's the ostraca. Note, it is not written in that modern Hebrew script. It is written in ancient Hebrew script, not the stuff that they made up. The study concluded that the inscriptions were created by at least 6 different authors. Individuals whose position or rank range from a top military commander down to a person who was a subordinate of the Arad fortress warehouse. More specifically, the inscriptions were connected to one unnamed Judahite military commander, Malkiyahu, the commander of the Arad fortress. One individual named Gimar Yahu, and another named Nehem Yahu. Kittim officers, a Greek mercenary unit, Eliashib, who was in charge of the Arad fortress warehouse, and a subordinate of Eliashib. So look, it's telling you the people who were in charge of the warehouse, the commander of the fortress, and the other people who were officers in the army. There was even a Greek mercenary unit that was there. Look at this one. The king of Judah was mentioned in one ostracon as dictating the overall military strategy. Another ostracon mentioned the house of Yahuwah, meaning the temple in Jerusalem. So they didn't mention the name here. But we know that Zedekiah ruled in Jerusalem from 597 BC to 586 BC when the temple was destroyed. And remember, he had his children slain before his eyes. Then he had his eyes put out, and he died in jail. That was all in this same period. You see, they have 600 BC here at the top. It says another ostracon mentioned the house of Yahuwah. Remember, this is the only structure where they found the name of our Father, and it means the temple in Jerusalem. So what are we saying here, brothers and sisters? Tel Arad is where the original Solomon's temple was built. Let's look at the ostracon. Arad ostracon, number 24, letter 2, 597 BC, Zedekiah's reply to Arad. Listen, the evidence is coming out constantly. These are the last days. The things that are hidden are now being revealed. But what we have is we have some people who are being used by the enemy, that are teaching things that they should not, and assigning names and destinations to places where there is no evidence at all. Here is all of the evidence that you're ever going to need. Remember, this is Tel Arad, not that Jerusalem you know over there. You can pause the video, and I want you to read the correspondence. But something that I want to point out to you that's really important to me. If you look down on the bottom on number 9, it says, Edom is mentioned in Arad Ostraka, number 3, 21, 23, 40, 53, 54, and 58. Edom's role in the 587 BC destruction of Jerusalem, also in Obadiah, also Psalms 137, also in Lamentations. Look, we read it before. Remember, Yahuwah, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundations thereof. Right up the top, just from here alone, you should have no more doubt that the place that I showed you that was desolate is the Jerusalem that the Father has prepared for us. Not in South Africa. Not over in Tel Aviv or in the Jerusalem that they show you today. In Tel Arad, the desolate place. I don't think it's this one. The Father says that it was going to be desolate, a waste city. So what is this? Look at the top. How many of you have heard of Fort Antonia? The story begins with Josephus. Listen to this, brothers and sisters. The first century Romano-Jewish scholar and historian who explains in his writing that Herod the Great expanded the Baris, the Greek word for tower, built by John Hyrcanus, the famous 2nd century BCE Jewish leader. Do you remember John Hyrcanus? He's the one who made the Edomites convert or leave. To replace the citadel, which had formerly protected the temple in the city of David, pre-Babylonian Jerusalem. Stop. They're trying to say that the place, this modern Jerusalem that we have today, where you have that Dome of the Rock and the Muslim mosque, they're saying that that was pre-Babylonian Jerusalem. Josephus effuses about its splendor and how much Herod, a prolific spender, dispensed for its construction. Herod dubbed the Roman camp Fort Antonia after his friend Mark Antony, and it assured his reputation as a master builder by its unparalleled magnificence. It must have been about 40 acres in size, like other typical Roman camps capable of housing a legion of 5,000 to 6,000 soldiers. Josephus described it as being erected upon a rock of 50 cubits in height on a great precipice. It had all kinds of rooms. This is what I want you to pay attention to. It had all kinds of rooms, conveniences, such as courts, places for bathing, broad spaces for camps, such that it had all the conveniences of cities and seemed like it was composed of several cities with 60-foot walls. You see the walls that everyone's praying to, right? 4 towers, the southeast being 105 feet high, and smooth stones installed on its slopes. It dominated the temple to itself. Listen, it dominated the temple to itself. Let me say it again. It dominated the temple to itself. So the temple was to the south of Fort Antonio, ready to fend off the most formidable attacks. When trouble brewed in the temple, or to keep peace during the festivals, Roman soldiers poured out of Fort Antonia onto 600-foot aerial bridges connecting it to the roofs of the temple porticos, whereupon they dispersed around its furlong perimeter. If need be, the soldiers could rain their arrows down upon the people in the outer courts or descend via staircases to perform hand-to-hand combat. So the place that everyone has been praying at the wall is a Roman fortress. A popular view of the Temple Mount in Yahushua's time, with smallish rendition of Fort Antonia highlighted. Let's look at the witchcraft that the Jews and the historians have used on us all of these years. You see the part that's circled? They know that Fort Antonia existed. But they said this little place here that's surrounded with the circle is Fort Antonia. Remember, a Roman legion is from 5,000 to 10,000 troops. Josephus said it should house 5,000 to 6,000 troops. Josephus says it had several cities inside. Josephus said it's about 40 acres in size. Does that look like 40 acres, brothers and sisters? Can you fit several cities inside of that little place there? Are you recognizing the witchcraft that they've used on us? I'm showing you facts and evidence. This is what they've done to us all these years. They are liars. They've lied so much that we decided that we wanted to move into Africa, which really the promised land is Africa, but we wanted to move back into Africa, South Africa, West Africa, all over Africa, and try to make it the place where Jerusalem resides because of all the lies that the Europeans made. Listen, they're not here for nothing. They're here in this land so that they can falsify information to turn us away. We're not going to let them do that. We're not going to let our own people do that to us with the dreams and the visions that they're having, which does not relate to anything about Yahuwah. What I'm showing you here will just destroy all of the foolishness that you may have seen in that video about that being the Jerusalem. Everyone is lying. But when we look at the Bible and look at the facts, we can see the truth. Now, how is 6,000 to 10,000 troops going to fit in that little place? Tell me, how does that work? Here's a typical layout of a Roman fortress with principal elements noted, courtesy of Bob Ellsworth. He's showing you the constructions that have been created around the world when the Romans conquered a nation or a country or a continent. They had to build fortresses there to protect themselves. This is their design. This is the layout of how they built their camps. Do you see how it looks just like the Temple Mount? A prospect of the temple and Fort Antonia from the Mount of Offense looking northwestward. If one will read the eyewitness accounts of Josephus without preconceived ideas, the temple and Fort Antonia appear precisely as they are drawn below. Now remember, they said that Fort Antonia was about 40 acres. That's what Josephus said. Now look to your left. That is where the temple resides. Remember, it said in the beginning, it says, if you look at this without any preconceived ideas. What preconceived idea is that? Is that the temple is in the middle of Fort Antonia. But according to an eyewitness, Josephus, it's off to the left here. You see the bridge that comes across that's connected to Fort Antonia so the Romans can run into the temple to quell any problems, just the way as it was described. Now they are excavating this site. You see where the temple here is to your left? They're excavating this site right now as we speak, looking for the Temple of Solomon. But this is not the Temple of Solomon. It is a temple, but this is Herod's temple. All you have to do is look in the history books. Herod built this temple. But it disappeared, right? How did it disappear from the face of the earth? The Messiah warned us that not one stone will be standing upon another. 70 AD, they destroyed it utterly. Matthew 24, verse 2. Verse 1. And Yahusha went out and departed from the temple. And his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. Verse 2. And Yahusha said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another, that shall not be thrown down. Note the prophecy from the Messiah. In 70 AD, the Romans came in and destroyed the temple. Not one stone was left standing upon another. The prophecy was not about Solomon's temple. It was about Herod's temple would be destroyed straight down to the ground. It was not authorized by the Mighty One, but it was built by the Edomites, brothers and sisters. Why do you think all of this contention or great consternation that was between Yahusha and the chief priests? He was telling you all the time, this was not the place. But this is where he came to preach. Why? Because this is where the people who were falsifying all of the information about Yahuwah dwelt. And the prophecy tells you nothing's going to be left. So look at this. The lost Temple Mount, the real location of Solomon's temple in the city of David, Jerusalem. Here's another video I want you to watch. Very informative. It's going to kill all doubts that you may have in your mind that maybe that structure, where the Dome of the Rock is, where the mosque is, where the people come to pray at the wall, it's going to clear all the speculation of that up and show you that that place is really Fort Antonia. Now look to the left. They have a temple that they have discovered there. They're excavating the site right now. They have basically the foundations only. Everything that was under it. They're digging this up as we speak, and they're finding all kinds of archaeological evidence that the temple was there. It is not Solomon's temple as it says in the top, because Solomon didn't build this temple. This temple was built by Herod the Great. That is history. That is so easy for you to find. So these scholars here are going to show you absolute proof that the place where everyone is going to pray to at that wall is really a fort of the Romans. Now the Jews would have us believe that there's something sacred about the Western Wall. I'm supposing that you watched the video and then you came back to mine. That it's a remnant of the Second Temple, and they're dead wrong. The Wailing Wall is a lie. It was never a temple. The Wailing Wall is actually the remains of a Roman fortress called Fort Antonia, built north of the actual temple, the temple of Herod, that is, where no protruding rock ever existed, but rather was built upon the Gihon Spring. The rock upon which the dome of the rock was built adjoining the western wall was actually the centerpiece around which Fort Antonia was built. There's nothing sacred about this rock or this wall. We're waking up. Our research is uncovering things. Hold it. The Europeans' research is showing us that everything that they taught us in the past was a lie. Remember, these are the last days. It is almost done. Whatever has been hidden must be revealed. Look at the aerial view. Remember what it is now. Fort Antonia. But look around where it is. Is it desolate? Is it waste? Has it been plowed over? No, it hasn't. It does not fit the biblical description. But we know now, through history, Josephus, that the people who come here to pray are praying to a Roman fortress. Inside the Roman fortress was their own little temple that they had to their gods. So when you're praying at that wall, you're praying to Zeus. When they uncovered this site, they found a temple modeled after the temple in Jerusalem. So they're trying to say that this temple here is modeled after the temple in Jerusalem, when they've already dated this one back to what? 600 BCE? They found ostraca there. So that's before the temple in Jerusalem. Witchcraft. Everyone thinks that that temple or that Fort Antonia was built before this. This is a replica, they said. Where did they get this information? The tour guides. Do you see this is Margie's Vacation? These are an independent group of people with no agenda. They're just on vacation. They took some pictures and they posted them online just to show what they've learned in their vacation. They have no agenda whatsoever. Look at this. This is the only one found in all Jerusalem, in all Israel, and even the Holy of Holies was uncovered. Only what? This is the only temple structure that was found that is still standing to this day. And they're sitting in the Holy of Holies, they say. We got our picture taken in it. Don't worry. This is a replica. The real thing is in the National Museum. The National Museum in Tel Aviv, brothers and sisters. Hey, listen what Margie and her family is telling you. They've cut out this whole section where they are. And they placed it in the museum and then built a replica here on this site. Why would someone do that if they weren't trying to perform a major cover-up? Here in the Israeli Museum, this is the original. There's inscriptions on these someplace. Maybe they erased them, but it tells the story. It probably told them that it was the Holy of Holies. Do you know what goes in the Holy of Holies? The Ark of the Covenant? This is amazing, brothers and sisters, what is happening now. All the things that have been hidden are being revealed. Here's JT laying down on the sacrificial altar. Look at the sign. It even says sacrificial altar, but they're trying to make this a Canaanite fortress / Israelite fortress. They don't know what they want to say, but they have to do all of these things to bring confusion. The picture below shows the area to the right where they would slay the animal, and then there is a pit in the ground that would catch the blood. Doesn't that make sense? Didn't the Father tell us in the law that once the animal was slain, that the blood must flow back into the earth? That's exactly what they're doing here. Remember, these are independent people on vacation, just coming to see this site. What about the brothers? The brothers have come here during Passover. They're making a mistake. But they've come here during Passover to sacrifice the lamb, which means they must not believe that the Messiah had come and given himself as a ransom. Here is the sacrifice that they've made. They're carving it up. They've done this on the site of Tel Arad. Why? Because they know, because they're living in the region today, that this is the true Jerusalem, not the one that we saw over there where Herod built the temple. That's history too, brothers and sisters. Here's some other brothers came to visit the site. If I get a chance, I'm going there. I want to go through it piece by piece. But if you watch that video that I told you to watch, where the brother's going to explain all of the gates and the walls in the book of Nehemiah, where he's going to give you point by point by point and show you the map, you're going to be absolutely convinced the way that I am. Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 10 to 12. And I will multiply men upon you. What is he talking about? We're talking about in the end, when the Father has brought us back to the promised land, he's going to give us men. They're going to serve us. And all the house of Israel, even all of it, every last one who makes it into the promised land, you will have men. Let me just spell it out the way it's supposed to be said. There shall be slaves assigned to you. And the cities shall be inhabited, which suggests that the city is not inhabited. And the waste shall be builded. So the men that are multiplied unto us are going to build our walls, plant our vineyards. Verse 11, and I will multiply unto you man and beast, and they shall increase and bring fruit. So the man and the beast are going to have children, and we shall have them as a possession, and I will settle you after your old estates, not the new one in that place where they say is the Jerusalem. He said the old estates, and will do better unto you than at your beginnings. And ye shall know that I am Yahuwah. Verse 12. Yea, I will cause men to walk upon you, even indeed my people Israel. They're gonna just come and give themselves unto us, and they shall possess thee. We shall possess them, and thou shalt be their inheritance. They shall be an inheritance for us, and thou shalt no more henceforth bereave them of men. They will not bereave us. They will be our servants. They will be happy to serve us because we shall live in righteousness. We won't treat them the way that they treated us. There'll be something similar to family. Genesis chapter 15, verse 18. Now I want to show you something else. When I watched this brother's video, he put Jerusalem in Africa, in South Africa, and he says, that is the true Jerusalem. That's what he said. Let's see what the Father says, where the true Jerusalem is. In the same day, Yahuwah made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land. That's us. From the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Look at this one. Genesis chapter 17, verse 8. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee, that's us again, the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their mighty one. Okay, so where is this? Look at the river of Egypt. You see Egypt on the left? Do you see the Nile River? That's the river of Egypt, the great river of Egypt. Look to your right. Do you see the Euphrates River? See Babylon, and there's a river that comes all the way down through and it goes into the Persian Gulf. He said from the river of Egypt all the way to the Euphrates River. That's the land that he's given to us. Look, Arabia's right there too. This is huge swath of land. Not, see that thing says Jerusalem and Canaan, that little place there. They're trying to say that's the only place that the Father has given us. But when you read the scripture, he says from the river of Egypt all the way to the Euphrates River, which means all of this land he's given to the children of Israel. Now we want to see how far this river of Egypt comes down. Here's a map of so-called Africa, as they call it today. The river of Egypt comes all the way down into Ethiopia and into this land here, and it pours into this river. It stops there. Note, it does not go into South Africa. Let me say that again. The Nile River does not go into South Africa. So we know from this point, look at where it is. Look at the end where the dark blue is. Now look towards your right. That is the promised land. So this goes all the way up through Yemen, all the way around. All of this is the land that the Father has given us, brothers and sisters. Let me show you the other side. Now here's the Euphrates River. He said to the Euphrates River. So the Euphrates River, let's say it goes up Gaziantep, past Syria, all of that land, from there all the way down into this great river here, this ocean here, the Persian Gulf. All of the land in between belongs to who? The children of Israel. Now let's look at a map where the brother states that the true Jerusalem is in South Africa. Here's your map of South Africa. Remember, from the great river of Egypt to the Euphrates River. We've already proven that the Nile, or the great river of Egypt, does not come down to South Africa. It stops over in Kenya somewhere. So what is the brother talking about here? Is he trying to say the Tigris River is the great river of Egypt? Okay, so let's just look at that. From the Tigris River to the river of Euphrates. Look at everything that's in between. That's not much. It's not a lot of land, brothers and sisters. The Father has given us almost a whole continent. The way it looks, you know, the promised land. Here, he wants you just to have like a state. It's not true. There's no evidence to prove this. Look, Micah chapter 3, verse 11 to 12. More information. This is just to tell you, it's not in South Africa, brothers and sisters. All of the information is in the Bible, and it tells you exactly what to look for. Let me show you why this happened in the first place. The heads thereof judge for reward. Read the whole Micah chapter 3. Matter of fact, read all of Micah. That's what I've done. And the priests thereof teach for hire, just like your preachers and your teachers are doing today, receiving money for delivering this message of life. And the prophets, therefore, divine for money. We see it constantly, right? Yet will they lean upon Yahuwah and say, is not Yahuwah among us? None evil can come upon us. They have tricked their minds into believing that Yahuwah is with them when they are judging for reward, the priests are teaching for hire, and the prophets are divining for money. Verse 12. Therefore shall Zion for your sake be plowed as a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, and the mountain of the house as the high places of the forest. Heaps, just like the Bible says. Tell Arad, brothers and sisters. Heaps. Look in the background of the heaps. The fields have been plowed, just like the Bible says. For a better picture, they're planting vineyards and crops here, just like the Bible says. And I will make Jerusalem heaps. Here's another witness. Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 11. And a den of dragons. And I will make the cities of Judah desolate. Listen what it says next. Without an inhabitant. Do you see the dragon there? Lizard. Brothers and sisters, we need to wake up. The information is right in the Bible. Stop following false prophets and listening to their foolishness. And if you do listen to their foolishness, because there's always something you can glean from them, but you have to research everything afterwards. You can't just say, hey, this brother knows what he's talking about. He's intelligent. Just because it sounds good to the ear doesn't mean that it's true. But the place that I'm showing you fits every biblical prophecy without a doubt. The cities of Judah, desolate. No one is living there. Without an inhabitant. except for the dragons. Shalom.